This week I got the 420 engine back together. I started working on a standard twin plow, and I built a paint booth for painting the pull tractor panels. After digging a little deeper into these Goldwing carburetors, I saw something pretty interesting. This stanchion right here that holds the float, somebody made that. Factory one, looks like that one there. And it's casted as part of the aluminum. But this one, somebody actually machined it. I don't know if you can see the intricacy of how they did it, but they did a pretty good job. I have it pressed in there, and that's exactly the kind of stuff I would do. Looks like it's still holding together okay, so once we get it cleaned up, we'll see if it's something we're going to be able to continue to use. But I really think that thing is going to be okay. So I'm carefully using a pocket screwdriver to get these bolt gaskets off so I can reuse them. It looks like everything's coming apart really nicely, and I'm going to be able to reuse everything, so I don't have to buy a carburetor kit, which for this particular bike wouldn't be too cheap. I got the inside of the panel scuffed, ready to paint. We're going to put a single stage on the inside just for protection. The outside with a clear coat to make them look a lot nicer. That's actually laying on really well. Two coats are going to do this just fine. Alright, we've got them sprayed red. Not too bad, a little bit of dirt in them, but again, this is just a protective coat for the backside. We're not worried about too much of a sheen here. Because of all the dirt that we had on the inside of those panels, I fear that we're going to have it on the outside as well, so I'm going to build a booth. This is something any of you guys can do. It's real cheap, inexpensive way to put together a paint booth and even have ventilation with it. So I'm going to put that together right now before I start painting the exterior of those panels. Alright, so what we've got here is our frame. This is actually going to be the roof of the booth. I got the plastic blade across it, stapled really tight. So then we're going to jack this thing up, put some legs on it before we set up the base. So it dawned on me that I keep saying we when I'm shooting these videos. The fact is I'm here by myself doing this. I do miss my students on these kinds of projects because with a lot of students we can get these kind of things done really quickly. But anyway, I'm getting this done. Hopefully I can get the second set of legs set up to get the roof all the way up, and then I can begin working on the base. Okay, so there it is up in the air. The roof's up and on. We got our base done. Now all I have to do is hang the rest of the sheeting around it, and then I'll put in my filters and my fan. Alright, we're going to put in one of these zip walls. These things are really cool. I've used them before. What you do, once you've got your sheeting up, you're going to peel the back of this off, stick it, and then we're going to cut it open, and that's going to be open. I'll show you. It took a little bit of work to get that paper off the back side of it. This was kind of an old one. But anyway, once you do, start from the top, push in on the plastic lightly, get it to stick, all the way to the bottom. Alright, once you do that, you're going to unzip it. At the top, take a razor knife, go into the center, cut a split, inside the zipper, like so, there you go. You can get in and out. Alright, so there we go, we got most of it. We got the three sides on the roof, put the face on it tomorrow, and then get our filter system set up. Alright, so I got one of my filters put in, back of the booth here. I'm going to duct tape the other one in. And after I get them in, what I'm doing is I'm cutting the inside of the plastic from the other side. That keeps it sealed off pretty good. Not worried about measuring or getting them exact. It's on one on each side. So this is nice and dry. Right there should be just fine. Get that stuck on there. We'll just finish taping the perimeter. There we go. So now I go on the inside and cut that out. and then tape up the inside as well. And then we should have, this will be the flow, the intake for our boot. Alright, so you can see I got the filter in on the other side masked in, and now I'm going to cut the perimeter off of the filter here, like I did on this one, so the air can actually flow through. Go. There we are. So we have the intake coming in here, a fan pushing or pulling from the outside, and it should keep these things relatively dirt free. You're probably having a hard time seeing me in here with the boot the way it is, but we're all set up. I've got my first round of pieces ready to spray. Here's the fan set up, taped up, so it's blowing outside, and you've seen the filter system already. I even have a chair set up in the corner so I don't have to go in and out every time, so that stir up more dirt. So hopefully this is going to work out okay. Guess we'll find out. I hope you can hear me over the fan. I don't want to plug it right now. I want to keep the air flowing through the boot. I got all the reds shot. They all look pretty good. I'm about to shoot some clear. Unfortunately, I can't put the camera inside the boot because I don't want to mess up the camera. But they're all looking pretty good. Once I get the clear shot on, I get a shot of what they look like and how dirt-free they are. Alright, so here they are. They don't look too bad. There's a little bit of dirt here and there, but definitely came out pretty good. You see the reflection of the top of the booth in this one. We'll let these things cure overnight, and we'll come back and check on them and maybe do a little polishing and get ready for the next round. So my rods and pistons came today, so we're going to get back on the 420, try to get this thing going again. Alright, we're going to fine tune the crankshaft journal just a little bit. It got scored, but I think we're okay to reuse it. If this were customers, I wouldn't reuse it, but since it's mine, I'm going to go ahead and reuse it. I think we'll be okay. So I'm going to use a little bit of penetrating oil on it and polish him up here a little bit with this piece of wet sandpaper. Alright, it's got everything cleaned up pretty good. I got the cylinder oiled down and the journal oiled down. Now it's time to put the piston and connecting rod back on the journal. I came into the shed to get out of the wind so that you could better hear me. I don't have a rain compressor here to get the piston back into the 420. So what I'm going to use is a weed trimmer line. I'm going to wrap this around the ring, pull it tight, and that's going to allow me to push the piston down into the cylinder. Do have the compression ring gap where I want it. Piston down until that touches. The other two went pretty easily. I probably should have recorded those. Thought this one would be just as easy. Alright, so just about fit. There we go. Just like that. Alright, so we got the rod in, ready to torque it down now. The torque spec calls for 14 to 15 foot-pounds. We're going to use 15, converted that to inch-pounds, so that's going to make 180 inch-pounds of torque for the aluminum rod. One. There's two. Let's go with the oil pan looking really good. Got it all cleaned out with all the aluminum shavings. We'll reuse that gasket and get it put back onto the engine case. So the head surface is all cleaned up on the engine. Got our new gasket, so we'll put the head back on it, get it torqued down, and then we'll be ready to put the engine back in the frame. So I didn't pressure wash the frame off or anything, but I did get the base of it cleaned off to give the engine a firm flat surface to mount to, so there's no dirt, grease, or debris sitting between the engine and the frame. So if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, I had to set the engine up like this so I could unhook the starter cable from it. So I'm doing the same thing now. Get the cable hooked back up, and then I can set the engine back down. Alright, she's back down in there now. Now it's got to get it bolted down and get everything hooked up, and hopefully we'll get this thing fired up today. Alright, drive shaft's back in place. All the cables and connectors are hooked back up. Battery's in. Belt's hooked up. Put a little bit of oil in it. See if she fires. I just got done priming it so I can get fuel up to the carburetor. Just cut it off to check the oil. And we'll see if it's going to start up on its own again. Here's an old 2-cylinder plow that I haven't used in a long time. Pulled some of the briars out of the way just so you could see it, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to tell it was there. I'm going to finish cutting some of the briars away and pull that thing out of there and try to get it going, because I'm going to need this before I'm going to be able to use that rototiller before we plant the garden. Alright, so here it is all pulled out of the weeds. Go through the carburetor and the magneto on this thing, put in some fresh fuel, and you should be able to fire it up here in a couple of days. Now that the 420 is done, I'm going to get started on this standard twin. It turns over and has good compression, but no fuel and fire. We're going to go through the magneto and take care of the fire issue first, because the fuel is going to be easy. I'm going to have to take the mag off in order to go through it. So I've got it unbolted already. I've got one of the pins lined up here at 12 o'clock, so when I pull it off, I'll make sure that I line that back up when I put it back together. Since this thing had run before, I'm pretty sure the point's probably just a little dirty. So I don't have a point file here. We're going to take a little bit of 320 paper here and just kind of go between the points and kind of file them a little bit, clean them up. And then that's probably all it needs, because the coil looks good, rotor button and everything looks good, the contacts inside the distributor cap, they all look good. So I think we'll be able to get this thing to fire pretty easily. Alright, we got fire now. I'm going to turn this thing over till it clicks, and you should be able to see it. Hopefully. Went ahead and stuck a little oil down the cylinders, let them soak for a bit. Now that we have fire and we've got compression, the only thing we need now is fuel. So I'm going to pull this carburetor off now, get it cleaned up. This is an old Zenith carburetor. I got the bowl soaking right now, so I'm going to take the rest of this apart and clean it up. Next time on Bulldog Builds, we'll see if we get that standard twin plow running. I'll have some more of the pull tractor panels painted, and I really have no idea what's going to be next, but we'll see you next week.